Meeting called to order at 5:36 p.m.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 31st, 2024 special meeting of the Richmond Rent Board. As a courtesy to others, we ask that you please silence your cell phones or any type of noise devices. Also, I have a few reminders regarding public comments. Individuals who would like to address the board, a request to speak card must be given to the assistant clerk before the announcement of the agenda item. If you would like to speak on an item not listed on the agenda or on the consent calendar, you must do so under the public forum. Please refer to the Rent Board meeting agenda for the list of items on the agenda or the agenda items list open for public comments posted above the table located in front of the chambers. Also, this meeting is being interpreted, and we ask anyone addressing the board to speak clearly and slowly for interpretation. The first item on the agenda is pledge to the flag. Please join me in pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is the roll call. For the purpose of the recording, may I please get an audible roll call for Rent Board members and staff? Board Member Dawkins.
Present.
Board Member Espinoza.
Present.
Board Member Height.
Present.
Vice Chair Guadalupe.
Here.
Chair Cantor.
Here.
Executive Director Nicholas Traylor.
Here.
Deputy Director Fred Tran.
Present.
And Palomar Staff Attorney Palomar Sanchez.
Present.
For the record, General Counsel Charles Oshanuga is absent. The next item on the agenda is Statement of Conflict of Interest. Are there any? Hearing none, the next item on the agenda is Agenda Review. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Are there any changes to the agenda from staff?
No changes from staff.
Are there any changes to the agenda from the board members?
Okay. Hearing none, the next item on the agenda is Public Forum. Tonight we have no speakers. The next item on the agenda is item F1 under budget. Item F1 is to 1, receive and review the revised proposed fiscal year 2024 through 2025 rent program budget and corresponding fees, and 2, determine a date and time to hold a public hearing and publish an annual budget for fiscal year 2024 through 25 with corresponding fees for adoption consistent with sections 11.100.060N and I of the rent ordinance. There are no speakers on this item.
Thank you. We will now hear the staff report.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Cantor and members of the Rent Board. Nicholas Traylor, Executive Director. Before you is a presentation on the draft proposed fiscal year 2024-25 rent program budget and fees. The issue at hand is fulfilling the requirement of section 11.100.060N of the rent ordinance, which requires that the board hold a public hearing and adopt an annual budget for the upcoming fiscal year no later than July 1st. The annual budget is funded by the residential rental housing fee, the amount of which is determined by the City Council following a recommendation from the Rent Board. In consideration of this requirement, staff members have prepared a revised fiscal year 2024 budget proposal with corresponding fees for its consideration and comment. The purpose of this item is to receive feedback from the board on the revised budget proposal and fees for potential adoption by the July 1st deadline. The revised proposed budget and rental housing fee for fiscal year 2024-25 would authorize $3,299,011 in expenses and $3,399,011 in revenue. The rental housing fee for the 2024-25 fiscal year is proposed to be $239 for fully covered rental units and $136 for partially covered rental units. At the May 7th, 2024 special rent board meeting, staff were directed to draft a proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25 per option 2 in accordance with the item F1, which was an update on the current financials and budget options. Budget option 2 proposed, budget option 2 assumed that there would be implemented updated salary schedule step increases and additional terms per each memorandum of understanding and side letter for SEIU Local 21, IFPTE Local 21 Mid-Management, and IFPTE Local 21 Executive Management. Budget option 2 also assumed doubling the amount of mass mailings and the mass mailing budget and to conduct a total of 4 mass mailing campaigns for the fiscal year. Also included was to increase and invest in a new in-person interpretation service. A request for proposals would commence upon adoption of the fiscal year 2024-25 rent program budget. Also included in budget option 2 are the reclassifying the vacant office assistant role in the hearings unit to an administrative trainee or equivalent position, and to delay the hire of this position to the second quarter of the fiscal year. It also included the adding of a compliance specialist in the second quarter to focus on delinquent accounts and new rental property discovery, among other related duties. Now, it's important to note that in this revised budget proposal, staff recommend not hiring the compliance specialist in fiscal year 2024-25, as will be explained in the slide that discusses further discussion and justification for the revisions to the proposed fiscal year 24-25 budget. During the May 15th, 2024 regular rent board meeting, staff were directed by the board to prepare a revised budget proposal for fiscal year 24-25 for review with the inclusion of the following items. First, to budget for a 360-degree performance evaluation of the executive director, to update the cost pool amounts based on the proposed information provided by the city at the May 15th, 2024 regular rent board meeting, and to update the revenue projection based on the assumptions of a new staff person or compliance specialist and what that staff person would be able to produce. The proposed fiscal year 24-25 expenditures that were impacted by the direction of the rent board at the May 15, 2024 regular meeting are presented in the revised categories and line item objects that's attached to the agenda report. The first revision, as I mentioned before, is budgeting for the 360-degree evaluation. The 360-degree performance evaluation is based on discussions with the Human Resources Department, is estimated to cost $10,000. And as I mentioned, we met with the Human Resources Department on May 22nd 2024, to discuss the requirements and procedures to ensure the evaluation is conducted in accordance with the Memorandum of Understanding for IFPT Local 21 Executive Management. Line item object number 400201 has been increased by $10,000. The second change are the updated cost pool amounts. As you all know, the Finance Director, Andrea Miller, spoke at the May 15th board meeting, and per Andrea Miller, Director of Finance, the cost pool charges will be offset with a subsidy for the current year, fiscal year 2023-24, and for the next fiscal year, the upcoming fiscal year, 24-25. The rent program will not be expending any funds to cover the cost of cost pool charges, as 100% of the transfer will be city funded. Now, Ms. Miller stressed that it will be pending, that this will be pending City Council approval, and that the subsidy will not be required to be paid back as a loan with any interest bearing, and it will be considered a transfer from the city to the rent program to offset those cost pool charges. In front of you are the cost pool line items with their associated object codes that have been impacted by the transfer from the city. As you can see, the total amounts net to the transfer amount of $0. Now, discussions are still being conducted with the city to finalize the agreement to stabilize cost pool charges. Now, staff revised the cost pool charges provided for line item object number 391994 to $290,391, which equals all the cost pool line item charges at fiscal year end to reflect the total transfer provided by the city. The cost pool revision adjustment, combined with the collection efforts of the billing and registration unit, will produce a net operating surplus in the amount of approximately $170,000 for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. Now, after additional meetings and discussions between rent program leadership and the billing and registration unit staff, it was determined that not hiring a compliance specialist in the upcoming fiscal year is a feasible option. The development of additional tools, including modifications to processes and our priorities, may be sufficient to maintain or improve the collection rate. As such, staff recommend not hiring a compliance specialist to maintain lower residential rental housing fees for fiscal year 2024-25, and line item object number 400003 was reduced by $82,853, resulting in a net reduction amount of $360,875. The most updated fringe benefit reports that were provided by the Finance Department increased line item object 400151 to $274,260 from what was $258,828, the number that originally was reported at the May 15th, 2024 meeting. Now, before the revisions, the fees were increasing by over 20%, and the most current version of the budget in front of you will increase both fully covered and partially covered fees by approximately 8.5%. Staff recommend not hiring a compliance specialist to maintain a lower residential rental housing fee for fiscal year 2024-25. As has been the case in previous fiscal years, except for the first year of our existence, staff members recommend the board continue to utilize a tiered fee approach to the fiscal year 2024-25 rental housing fee to ensure the requirements of Section 50076 of the California Government Code are met. The chart in front of you compares the proposed fiscal year 24-25 rental housing fees to prior year fees. The proposed 2024-25 budget and fees reflect the goals of the rent program and will allow the agency to recover costs of all budgeted operations by increasing the rental housing fee to $239 for fully covered and $136 for partially covered units. And with that, the recommended action tonight is to receive and review the revised proposed fiscal year 24-25 rent program budget and corresponding fees, and determine a date and time to hold a public hearing and publish an annual budget for fiscal year 2024-25 with corresponding fees for adoption consistent with sections 11.100, 0.060N and L of the rent ordinance. And myself and Deputy Director Tran are available to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions from the board? I have a few questions. Just noticing that the amount of revenues is $100,000 higher than the expenses, is that $100,000 going into reserves?
Fred, you want to answer that question?
Yeah, the reason why it's 100,000 more, it's 50,000 of that is estimated interest earned from the cash balances in our bank accounts, and the other 50,000 is the estimated amount that the collections agency can approximately collect in the upcoming fiscal year.
Okay, so the amount of expenses and the revenue gathered from the fees are identical?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. My next question is, and it might just be that you don't have the answer to this yet, but is the city, understanding that the city has committed, or not committed, has stated their intention to cover the cost pool fees for fiscal year 25, assuming that it's approved by City Council. Have they said anything about future years prior to fiscal year 25?
We are in
Sorry, after fiscal year 25.
No worries. We're in the process of negotiating with the city what those terms would be. The agreement would be a cooperation agreement that would extend beyond this one fiscal year. It would be continuous.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I have a comment, but I want to make sure we don't have any public speakers, correct? Okay, no public speakers. Are there any other questions? Yeah, please.
O si hay uno. Ah, no, you have to go there.
Okay. Board Member Espinoza, what's your question?
Quiero preguntar que si me podrían explicar un poco más sobre qué se va a hacer con el superávit que se está diciendo que tenemos para este año fiscal.
I would like to know if you can explain to me what we're going to do with the extra amount of money that we have in from this fiscal year. Lo que hay en exceso, ¿no es cierto, Tomasa?
Sí, el superávit.
Yeah. She wants to know what you guys are going to do and explain to her better how you're going to do with the amount of extra money that you have. The extra, ¿cuál es la palabra?
Surplus?
The surplus?
Surplus.
Yeah, the surplus. Uh-huh.
Once we do a cash flow for the month of April, we'll be able to better determine what the actual surplus is. And after that, we'll do a calculation to hopefully fund our reserve up to the minimum of 18%, up to 25%. And if it's over 25%, we'd actually reduce the fees. If it's under the 25%, then the reserve goes into the fund balance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members? Okay, so I just have a comment, which I've already said to Mr. Traylor and Mr. Tran, but just wanting to state publicly that I hear that staff feel confident in their ability to collect on outstanding fees without hiring a new staff member, and think that that's wonderful if that is able to happen. And just want to make sure that I think that the compliance specialist role as a revenue generating role is a very valuable one that we should be continuing to keep in mind, and would like for us to figure out how to assess whether the new plans are working, and if they're not, to proactively prepare for hiring a compliance specialist. I hear the rationale of wanting to keep fees low, but for me, that position is an investment in keeping fees low in the future. And so the rationale that current staff feel that they have the capacity to take it on makes a lot more sense to me than the rationale of just trying to keep fees low, because I think that keeping fees low this year, but potentially having them go higher next year, is not to anyone's benefit. So just wanted to say that in public so that everyone can hear my thoughts. All right. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Did you have one?
Estoy de acuerdo con su comentario.
She agreed with you about the comment.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have a motion? I guess we need to figure out the date and time. So let's consider our schedule. We have, I know, 2 meetings in the month of June. Can somebody remind me when those meetings are?
It's scheduled for Tuesday, June 11th, and then we rescheduled the one that was on the 19th to the 17th due to the Juneteenth holiday. So.
And that is Monday, June 17th?
Yes,
Correct.
Monday, June 17th.
Okay.
Today being May 31st, we're right at the deadline for the 10-day publication. The 17th is actually the better date if
Yes.
we were to be able to get the proposed budget approved.
Okay, so.
It's
so
just a
then-
regular meeting then for the
Correct,
17th.
correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
so staff's recommendation is that we hear the official budget on the 17th rather
Correct.
than the
Yes.
11th.
Correct.
Would that mean that our meeting on the 11th is not necessary?
Yeah, that's what I would think. Yeah,
Correct.
so I can actually cancel that meeting and send out to everybody. We had it on the books just in case, as a backup, just in case.
Great. Okay, so hearing, with that information then, does anyone have a motion?
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting?
Not yet.
Okay. I make a motion, we receive and review the revised proposed fiscal year 2024-25 rent program budget and corresponding fees, and to determine a date and time to hold a public hearing and publish an annual budget for fiscal year 2024-25 with corresponding fees for adoption consistent with sections 11.1, 00.060, and L of the rent ordinance.
And do you have a proposed date and time as part of your motion?
And the date and time will be June 6th,
17th?
June 17th of this year.
5 PM, correct? Is that right?
5:30.
And we'll have somebody outside to let us in?
Yes, yes, we will do that.
Sorry, the interpreter is,
Oh, sorry.
we have to check on her availability as well.
I
It's a
can be here
Monday.
at 4:30.
You could be here at the regular time?
Yes, because I'm done working.
Okay.
In the schools,
So
I'm
we
not-
can start at, it's up to you guys. You want to start at the 5 o'clock or 5:30?
5:30? Okay.
I think what I do it at the convenience of the interpreter.
Well,
Yeah.
both.
And so 5:30? Yeah, 5:30.
5 or 5:30, which one for you, Jeanette?
Okay, 5:30.
Okay.
Okay, 5:30.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion brought forward by Board Member Height is to receive and review the budget and fees and to hold the public hearing on Monday, June 17th at 5:30 PM. Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
There we go. Oops. Who wanted?
Let's say, motion by Board Member Height, second by Board Member Dawkins.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll take a vote. Board Member Dawkins?
Yes.
Board Member Espinoza?
Yes.
Board Member Height?
Yes.
Vice Chair Guadalupe?
Yes.
And Chair Cantor?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item G, under reports of officers.
There is no report of officers tonight.
Okay. Meeting adjourned. Oh, did you have a question? Yes. Your microphone is on.
I wanted to make a comment, which is to thank the staff for the excellent work in this presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you so much
you.
to the staff.
Thank you.
All right, meeting adjourned at 6:04 PM. Great job, team. We
Thank
didn't even, we
you.
did it within, I hoped we could do it within an hour, and we did it within half an hour.
Thank
Have a
you.
good weekend, everyone.